Okay, welcome back to members of a 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, and our ongoing study in our literary novel, First Sons and Last Daughters. We're going to look at pages 194 to 214. Let's go to block 1 and get started. Scarborough's last start and the funeral gathering. And Scarborough is considered one who is adopted into the family. Scarborough is adopted into the family. He was to be laid to rest in the family mausoleum with a carved sarcophagus that depicted the early settlement days. I mean, pretty darn nice. Adler tells Peyton that healing requires authenticity, which is very true. But here's the question: how many of those gathered will be loving and genuinely authentic? Now, Peyton recognizes the cross as authentic. She takes the cross and she places it under the hands of Scarborough. And then you have the prayerful homily and the procession. Matt, Bryce's love interest, and Ashton both show up. And Peyton has the task of keeping the funeral on the path of authenticity. Don't let it get diverted. And Father Gabriel does recite a homily. He's the family minister. Now, what about outside intrusions and this task of keeping authenticity? Margot and Gideon show up. Adler immediately walks over and confronts Ashton in a very hostile way because Ashton brings Margot and Gideon, and Ricky sees the confrontation between Adler and Ashton. And Ricky tells Ashton, maybe you should leave. Then William asks about the man standing with Bryce, meaning Matt, her new boyfriend. And Gideon throws fuel on the fire and interjects a few comments that are insulting to his sister. Gideon is still the disruptive, rude individual. And the entire funeral is degrading away from what it should be. So it's going totally off the rails. So getting back to the genuine kairos, opportune time of honoring Scarborough. It is time for the procession, and it's a country and western funeral, so it's old cowboy style. Local friends have already gathered at the cemetery, and then you have a cowboy-style horseback procession, and Ricky plays the flute during the procession, and all the locals are chanting in a Pueblo Indian ritual for the Great Spirit, because Scarborough is beginning his last start into eternity, with many friends in attendance. But after all this chaos and interruption, there is genuine return to Kairos time, a genuine honoring of a true friend, and Peyton wants to make sure that that remains authentic. Let's move on to block 2. Okay, let's go to block 2. And I loved this. Evil attempts to disrupt grace. But check out block 2, note 1. Peyton does the primary speaking at the funeral in a language of a last start, and there are 7 aspects to a last start that she emphasizes in her talk that honors Scarborough. And she uses first-person plural through the whole thing. We reflect on our own mortality We mourn all the loved ones from long ago. This reminds us to mourn all of our loved ones that have passed on. We need to have a reason to die for, and we participate in this pain and sorrow, but we are free, except from the love we genuinely leave behind. We are assured of that which overcomes even death, and our children will bear the heritage we leave behind. I mean, that's beautiful. That's a 7-point homily, benediction, homily, whatever you want to call it. 7 very, very powerful aspects. We reflect, we mourn, we need, we participate, we are free, we are assured, our children bear. Beautifully, beautifully done. I love this talk that Peyton gives, and very powerful and very much honoring Scarborough, who is considered one of the family. So you can sense the Lord in all of this. It's a God-honoring benediction, a God-honoring homily, and then Gideon, evil does seek to destroy grace. Gideon says, I also have something to say. Peyton immediately challenges him and says no. But he speaks anyway. And Gideon, just rude, he goes, Scarborough only spoke in quotes, and he was just a mere employee. He does not deserve to be in the family mausoleum. So he's extremely rude. It's entirely out of place here. I mean, he needs to be stopped immediately. Adler intervenes and says, no, he was an honorable cowboy. We're blessed to have known him. But Gideon didn't stop, and Ashton steps in, and Gideon does stop. So Ashton's intervention is even stronger than Gideon's own father. And then Royce sees things flaring up, so she asks Ashton to accompany her back to the house, just really to diffuse the tension between Adler and Ashton. And there is a cowboy-style after-funeral barbecue for everyone. So up at the barbecue, off to the side, Ashton tells Peyton he will leave and he will take Gideon with him. Adler overhears this and says, my son stays here. The ownership thing. This is my son, and my son stays here. But Gideon protests being with his own dad. I want to go with Ashton, Dad. I want to go with Ashton on his personal jet. I want to go. So Gideon, before leaving, hurls some insults at Hanovi and Ricky before leaving. And Peyton tells Adler, you consistently shove Gideon between us and our relationship, and then you twist my arm to comply to what you want. And I blame you for all of that. And then Peyton walks away crying. So, total disaster. Their marriage is crumbled, totally crumbling, totally fallen apart. Let's go to block 3, and we retreat to the Father's library. Remember, the library is a place of contemplation. Peyton retreats to the library, and when she gets there, Coda's already there, so he had the same idea. They both want that moment of meditative forever. Both are recalling memories with Scarborough, and Peyton also calls up some memories when she would go to the library and listen to her father when he would recite poetry he had written. William joins the duo in the library, and he's disturbed over Bryce having a new boyfriend, Matt. And he says, I need time to think. And he's staying at the casita with his grandfather, but Matt's, he wants everything. Good old Matt. He wants Bryce. He wants his current girlfriend. He wants his past girlfriend. He wants all of his girlfriends. So, Uh, so he doesn't like the fact that Bryce has a boyfriend, Matt. And he goes, I need to have time to think. And he says, I'm staying at the casita. The meditative retreat comes up against the antithesis of reason. Peyton tells William that he is loved, and she tells Coda that he is the new Scarborough. But then she adds, all right, Coda, you're gonna need to brush up on your dusty trail wisdom quotes like Scarborough always had. Now that evening, Peyton goes through her familiar bedtime ritual, but when she slides into bed, she makes sure that she stays away from her husband. The marriage is shattered. I mean, there's nothing but tension between her and Adler. So there's no marriage. There's no intimacy. Love is being destroyed, and we'll see where it goes. But I'm not so sure that Peyton really desires even to be married, to tell you the truth. I have the feeling that she just wants to go solo. I mean, I don't think she wants to go with a. I think she realizes that her and Adler are not working. They've grown apart. They have separate interests, and they just really aren't together. But Ashton, I don't think she's really seeking to go with anyone. So we'll see. We'll see where Reine takes us. But I have a feeling that she would be happier and just really wants to be on her own. She's got the museum project coming up. She's got a lot going on, and I have a feeling she's kind of just really wanting to be on an adventure on her own. So we'll see where it goes, though. But right now, we can see that the marriage has shattered completely. So it's a very interesting funeral, but for me, I liked, out of this lesson, Block 2, Note 1, the 7 aspects of a language of a new start. We reflect on our mortality. We mourn all of the loved ones from long ago that have passed over, that have crossed over into eternity. We need to have a reason to die for. We do participate in pain and sorrow at this time, but we are free except from that from that love that we leave behind. We are free except for the love we leave behind, and we are assured of that which overcomes even death. We are assured in Christ that we do have a last start, a new life in eternity, and we are assured of that which even overcomes death. And our children will definitely bear the heritage we leave behind. So that's 7 aspects of the homily, and the homily that she really gives at the funeral, which I think is very powerful. 7 aspects of the signification that should accompany a funeral gathering. It reminds us to reflect on our mortality. It is mourning. We're mourning this loved one, Scarborough, but we are mourning all loved ones who have crossed over into eternity. And Scarborough had a reason for life and a reason to die for, and we need to have a reason to live and a reason to die for. We do participate at this time in pain and in sorrow, but we are leaving, in freedom, we are leaving love behind as part of our heritage, and we have an assurance in Christ that even death will be overcome. We all will. We are spirit. We live forever. We shall begin our last start as we pass through death and into the passageway to eternity. And our children truly will bear the heritage we leave behind. Very, very powerful lesson. That's 194 to 214. and we'll pick up from 214 on in our next lesson.